Imagine waking up day after day with this weight on your chest, something nobody else can see, like a fog rolling into your thoughts, stealing your energy, whispering doubts. It's hard to picture, maybe. But for more than 1 billion people around the globe, this isn't just a bad day. It's the reality of living with a mental health condition. It's a story that's so often hidden, right? Behind smiles, behind silence. So today we're doing a deep dive into what people are calling the silent epidemic of global mental health. Our mission really is to unpack the facts, try to understand the massive impact this has, and look at how we, collectively might turn things around. We've pulled together a lot of recent global insights, some really comprehensive reports. And the numbers, well, they're pretty staggering. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, it's crucial to remember that mental health isn't some abstract idea floating out there. It's literally the foundation of how we think, how we feel, how we connect with everyone around us. And when that foundation starts to wobble, the ripples, they go everywhere. It's not just the individual. It's families, workplaces, whole communities feeling the effect, sometimes in really profound ways. We've been digging into the latest data. This is pretty current. As of September 2025, drawing on some key findings, and the big headline figure is just, well, it's huge. Over 1 billion people worldwide are dealing with a mental health condition. Just pause on that for a second. 1 billion. That's roughly 1 in every 8 people on Earth. And these aren't just numbers on a page, right? There are a billion individual stories. Stories of struggle, resilience, and yeah, often this invisible battle fought every single day.
1 in 8. Wow, that really does stop you in your tracks. It's almost too big a number to properly picture. How do we even start to grasp the human cost behind that? It's not just about coping day to day, is it? It's lives being fundamentally changed or tragically cut short. I mean, look at 2021 alone. Suicide claimed 727,000 lives globally. That worked out to more than one death every 40 seconds. It's hard to believe. And for young people, those aged 15 to 29, it's shockingly the third leading cause of death. But the despair, it goes even wider. For every person who dies by suicide, we know that over 20 attempt it. And beyond those devastating losses, there are just countless lives being limited. Things like anxiety and depression, they're actually the second biggest drivers of long-term disability worldwide, literally stealing years of productivity, years of joy, sometimes whole decades of potential, just gone.
Which naturally leads to the question, right, why? Why does something so common, something that affects so many, still feel like this hidden storm? A big part of it, honestly, is the invisible nature of these conditions. Unlike, say, a broken arm or something you can clearly see, mental health struggles often don't show on the outside. You can see someone who seems totally fine, laughing at a party, doing well at work. But inside, they might be fighting these overwhelming waves of panic or this deep, pervasive emptiness. And that invisibility, unfortunately, it breeds misunderstanding. It fuels these common myths, like the idea that mental illness is somehow a sign of weakness or something you can just snap out of if you try hard enough. And these myths, these deeply ingrained ideas, they create what you can only call a kind of social poison, stigma. It shames people into silence. It actively stops them from reaching out for the help they really need. And the disparity in care because of this is just heartbreaking. In low-income countries, fewer than 10% of people affected get any care at all. Compare that to over 50% in wealthier nations. It's a huge gap. And it gets worse when you look at funding. High-income countries might spend up to, say, $65 per person on mental health. Low-income countries, they manage maybe 4 cents. 4 cents per person. That difference isn't just numbers. It represents countless stories of unnecessary suffering.
That gap in support, that funding difference. Yeah, it's truly sobering. So we've got the scale, this immense number. But what are the specific conditions that are really driving this? And maybe why do they pose such a tricky, insidious threat, something that's maybe underestimated even when we know the numbers?
Yeah, that's a really important point about the invisible enemy
Yeah.
aspect. So the biggest players here are anxiety disorders. We're talking about 301 million people globally. Think about that feeling. Maybe your heart pounding before a big presentation or that constant nagging worry. But imagine it's like a runaway train. It's just always there, hijacking your thoughts day in, day out. And then there's depression. That affects around 280 million lives. And again, this isn't just feeling a bit down. It's a deep, profound emptiness that can just suck the color out of everything, making even simple things like just getting out of bed in the morning feel like climbing a mountain.
These aren't just labels, are they? They're experiences that completely change how you navigate the world. Think about a time you felt that runaway train anxiety or that cloud of sadness. Now amplify it, make it constant, make it steal your ability to even start your day. That's the reality for hundreds of millions. And the economic hit from just these two conditions, anxiety and depression, it's astonishing. We're looking at $1 trillion, a $1 trillion drain on the global economy every single year. But the real insight here isn't just the money lost, is it? It's the quiet erosion of human potential. The ideas never explored, the innovations never made, the solutions to big problems that just never surface because minds are trapped in these invisible struggles.
Right.
It's not just an economic problem. It feels like a profound waste of our collective human spark.
Absolutely. And if we step back and look at the wider picture, we see definite patterns. Who's most affected? How deep the impact goes. Women, for instance, tend to bear a heavier burden. About 581.5 million females live with a mental disorder compared to 513.9 million males. And that's not random. It reflects specific risks women face more often, things like intimate partner violence, sexual assault. These experiences significantly raise the risk of depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, often tied directly to PTSD. Now, interestingly, men actually have higher rates of some other conditions like autism spectrum disorders or ADHD, about twice as likely, in fact. But there's often huge societal pressure on men to just tough it out, right, to suppress emotions. And that leads to massive underreporting, a lot of untreated pain. And then there's our young people, that 15 to 29 group we talked about. Suicide is still a top killer for them. And it's so often linked to mental health struggles that weren't diagnosed, weren't supported, just when they're starting out, trying to find their way. It's tragic.
And when we talk about the economic toll, it really hammers home how vital this is, not just for people's well-being, but for, global prosperity. Beyond that $1 trillion annual loss just from anxiety and depression, the numbers get even bigger. The World Economic Forum estimated the cumulative cost, this is for mental, neurological, and substance use disorders together, at $16.3 trillion. That's just from 2011 to 2030, $16.3 trillion. Just think about that. It's more than the combined impact of heart disease, cancer, and diabetes. More than all of them. And you see it play out in real ways. Absenteeism, people just too unwell to work. Or presenteeism, they're there physically, but they can't focus, can't perform. Huge drain on productivity. It puts immense strain on families, too, with caregiving burdens, and it connects to broader societal issues, higher crime rates, homelessness, sex deals. These are often linked back to untreated conditions. It really does touch every single part of our lives, doesn't it? From the most personal level right up to the global stage.
It really does. The picture is definitely stark. But, and this is important, amidst all these challenges, we absolutely have to highlight where progress is happening, because there are encouraging signs. There are pockets of real innovation, specific steps forward, even while we tackle these huge systemic problems. So since 2020, for example, we've seen a really positive shift. Over 80% of countries now include mental health support in their emergency response plans. That's a massive jump from just 39% before. And part of that, sadly, was spurred by the COVID-19 pandemic. While devastating, it undeniably forced mental health into the global conversation. We saw anxiety and depression spike by 25–28% worldwide during that time. We're also seeing telehealth and outpatient services expand, which is great for reach, especially in remote areas. Most countries now have some kind of school-based program for suicide prevention or for early childhood development, recognizing that starting early pays off big time. And there's definite progress, too, in linking mental health with general health checkups. About 71% of countries meet at least 3 WHO criteria for that kind of integration, which means mental health is slowly, finally, being seen as just part of the whole picture.
That's genuinely good to hear. Seeing it integrated into emergency responses, into primary care, that feels like a real shift in how we think about it. Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because you've got this positive momentum, but the hurdles, they're still massive, right? We're definitely not out of the woods yet.
No, not by a long shot. We are still facing these deep, persistent systemic barriers that need urgent, focused attention. For example, only 45% of countries worldwide have laws that are fully aligned with human rights standards when it comes to mental health. That leaves far too many people vulnerable to outdated, sometimes coercive practices. Underfunding is still critical. That median government spending on mental health, it's stuck at a tiny 2% of overall health budgets. Tragically, that figure hasn't budged since 2017, 2%. It's nowhere near enough. And then the workforce shortage, it's severe. Globally, we average just 13 mental health workers per 100,000 people, and the shortages are absolutely dire in low and middle income countries. Millions simply can't get help because there's no one there. Our care models also need a serious shakeup. Fewer than 10% of countries have really shifted to community-based care. Many are still stuck relying on old-style inpatient models, places where nearly half the admissions are involuntary, and where over 20% of stays drag on for more than a year, often with questionable benefit. And finally, data. We just don't have enough good data. Only 22 countries could even properly estimate how many people with psychosis were getting services. That makes planning, allocating resources effectively incredibly difficult.
Right, those hurdles paint a really clear picture of how much work is still ahead. So, given these huge challenges, but also these glimmers of hope you mentioned, how do we actually start fixing this globally? What does the roadmap for transforming things actually look like?
Well, the World Health Organization has put out a very clear, very urgent call to action. We need to transform mental health services, and we need to do it now. Dr. Tedros, the WHO Director General, put it perfectly, I think. He said, transforming mental health services is one of the most pressing public health challenges. And crucially, investing in mental health means investing in people, communities, and economies, an investment no country can afford to neglect. He outlines 5 key pillars for this global roadmap. Think of it as a blueprint to get us from crisis to hopefully widespread well-being. First pillar, equitable financing. We absolutely have to push spending way beyond that pathetic 2% mark, and we need to aggressively close that massive funding gap between richer and poorer nations. High-income countries can really lead here, sharing tech, training, know-how. Second, legal and policy reforms. With less than half of countries having rights-aligned laws, that has to change. Now, we need to advocate for ending involuntary commitments where possible, really prioritize rights-based care, and critically, involve people with lived experience in designing the services. Their voices are absolutely essential. Third, build the workforce. Simple as that. Train way more professionals, especially where the need is greatest, and really implement task shifting. That's where non-specialists get trained to deliver basic, evidence-based care. Programs like the WHO's MHGAP show this works brilliantly for scaling up services, especially in low-resource settings. Fourth, expand community-based, person-centered care. This means a decisive move away from relying so heavily on hospitals, which can be isolating, towards strong local support networks, peer groups, much more telehealth, fully integrating mental health into primary care. Build on that positive momentum we saw with emergency aid. And fifth, tackle the root causes. We have to address the underlying issues, violence, poverty, inequality that fuel poor mental health. We talked about women facing violence, right? They're prime candidates for depression and anxiety. Prevention starts early. School programs teaching emotional skills, strong anti-bullying efforts, community wellness strategies. It's about creating environments where people can actually thrive.
Those pillars sound really comprehensive. They cover everything from the money side to really getting at the roots of the problem. But, historically, these big global initiatives, even with clear roadmaps, they often hit major roadblocks when it comes to actually doing it. What do you see as the biggest hurdle in translating these principles into real widespread change on the ground, especially in places with the most desperate need?
That's such a critical point, and it often gets glossed over. The roadmap might be clear, but the biggest hurdle, it's often not a lack of knowing what to do. It's a lack of sustained political will and coordinated investment. It really is. It's one thing to sign declarations at high-level meetings. It's quite another to actually reallocate budgets, challenge powerful entrenched systems, and overcome the sheer inertia of outdated laws and practices, especially when mental health is still, frankly, fighting for attention against more visible health crises. Add to that the critical shortage of trained people in low and middle income countries. Plus, sometimes, a lack of local ownership or solutions that aren't adapted to the local context. It makes implementation incredibly tough. It really requires this sustained multi-sector commitment, not just a flash-in-the-pan campaign. It needs long-term vision.
That insight about political will and systemic inertia, that's crucial. But like you said, it's not just about grand declarations. We are seeing these solutions work in practice, offering models for others. You mentioned Uruguay, for instance. Their real-time suicide surveillance system. That's groundbreaking stuff. It allows for rapid intervention, potentially saving lives. Or look at Bangladesh, scaling up psychosocial support after disasters. That's such a vital, compassionate response when communities are in crisis. Even in high-income countries like the U.S., we're seeing community-based models showing real promise. They improve outcomes, yes, but they also cut costs by moving away from expensive inpatient care. And all this momentum hopefully builds towards critical global moments, like the upcoming UN high-level meeting in 2025 in New York, focused on non-communicable diseases and mental health. That's a huge opportunity to push these solutions, hold countries accountable, and really demand action. So, bringing this all together, what does it mean for you listening right now? The kind of transformation we're talking about, it really needs everyone. Every single one of us has a role to play. That statistic, over 1 billion people affected, it means your neighbor, your colleague, your friend, maybe someone in your own family could be fighting this battle silently. So we need to keep pushing governments, right? To fund properly, to legislate with compassion. We need communities to smash the stigma talk openly, support each other. We need workplaces to step up, offer mental health days, proper counseling, create genuinely supportive environments. And for you personally, if you are struggling, please know that reaching out, asking for help, it's an act of profound strength. It is not a sign of weakness, never a shame. And remember that UN goal slashing suicide rates by a third by 2030. Right now, we're on track for maybe 12%. The urgency couldn't be clearer. The responsibility really is shared by all of us.
And maybe a final thought to leave everyone with. Consider this, that $1 trillion lost every year to just anxiety and depression alone. Imagine flipping that. Imagine turning that loss into gains through better care, through prevention, through support. Investing properly in mental health now isn't just the right thing to do ethically. It's smart economics. It's a wise investment in our collective human capital. Because healthier minds lead to more innovative societies, more resilient communities, and frankly, kinder communities too. Ultimately, mental health isn't a fight anyone should face alone. It truly is a global team effort. From the researchers digging into data, to policymakers crafting better laws, to everyday people showing empathy. We are all part of building a world where seeking help is normal, even celebrated, not stigmatized. 1 billion stories deserve much better endings than they're currently getting. And together, we absolutely can build that world. Your voice, your actions, they really do matter. Join the movement today.